You've been researching your Ancestors fan club for months or years now, and you have a lot of information, but it's starting to become difficult to make heads or tails of it. Today I'm showing you how I'm using NotebookLM to build a searchable repository of my related files. A few months ago I started gathering everything together: maps, county histories, property records, newspaper clippings, all sorts of things. So the very first thing is you're going to just create a new notebook. And then once you're inside the notebook, you can start adding sources. So that's this button here. So the first one is upload files. Any old document, image, map, anything with text on it, that's awesome. If you have audio files, you can also upload those. And actually, it's cool. If you upload anything with audio, it will transcribe it, and then you can search that information also. You can also upload websites, or you can upload links to YouTube videos if that's relevant to you. What I would say is you can't upload anything that sits behind a login or a paywall or anything like that. So yeah, it must be a public website. If you have Google Drive, you can connect an entire folder, or again, you can just upload individual files from here. And then lastly, there's copied text. If there was some text that, for example, on newspaper clippings, often they'll have the transcript. So rather than trying to upload the image, you can just grab the transcript, paste that there. So that's another thing you can try. And then it all becomes searchable. Think of it as your personal research library assistant, where you can ask it questions in plain English, and it will search across everything that you've uploaded, and it won't search the web. So it only searches what you give it. So give it some good stuff. Have you ever wished you could just ask your research files a question and it tells you? So that's what this problem is solving. In fact, if you have one of those mystery folders of files, like I sometimes do, you can upload that, and this will be one way around it. So let me start to show you what you can do with your uploaded files. So this is my notebook here, and you can see I've been asking it some questions. I've got 48 sources uploaded, and like I said, it's kind of a mix of things. We have text, we have PDF, we have images, and yeah, even that Airtable I mentioned. For the most part, I'm using NotebookLM to keep the broad sources, so like individual pages from county history books are perfect for this kind of thing. If it's anything really specific to an individual ancestor, that goes into my Airtable. I have included things like deed indexes relevant to the families I'm interested in. I also want to add everything I've uploaded is out of copyright, so I wouldn't recommend uploading anything that is in copyright or anything that gives away identifying information. So for example, DNA matches. If you are going to upload DNA matches, then I would privatize them. And what I just do is I keep the first name and I just use the last initial. And usually through the names of the people around them, I know exactly which match they are. I know that uploading 30 plus files is probably really tedious, but it's worth it. It'll save you time. I also want to add that this is the free version that I'm using, and I believe there's a maximum of 50 files. But in my case, that's plenty. Before you start asking it questions, you might want to give it some instructions on how to respond to you. So I have a custom conversational style here, and I'm telling it you're a genealogy research assistant, and you're assisting another researcher, and I just didn't want it to treat me like a layperson. So when I ask questions, provide specific citation to the sources, and I'll show you that in a minute. It's pretty handy. And then use a conversational style. And if you see conflicting information across sources, tell me what the conflict is and why. And I just add to distinguish between what sources say and what you're inferring. And then you can choose response length. I just have default. I don't want it to be too long, and I also don't want it to skip anything that could be useful context. And then you click save. And yeah, you just do that once per notebook, and then after that, you're fine, you're good to go. So now you can start asking it questions, and it'll search across all of the sources at once, unless you tell it not to. So right now it says select all sources. If I tap that, it goes away. Okay, so I'm just selecting a single one. I'm just going to ask it, can you summarize this? So this is cool. This is a first-hand narrative from one of the early settlers of Boone County, and just kind of a little bit about the specific route they took. Also, because I'm obsessed with migrations, it's quite nice. It's even showing the specific snippet it's looking at. So this is a map of Belvedere. Tell me the names of the people. Anytime I've tried to look at a map, my eyes going all over the place, and it is quite hard to spot the names you're looking for. So let's see if it can just pull out some names, some specific names. Okay, so here's the names of the individuals clearly visible on the map. It's referencing another document I uploaded and started asking questions about. So that's what that's about. So here we go. We have, lots of great names. Even though the 1908 Chancery case named unknown heiresses 1856 map shows original founders. There we go. Okay, but let's say we want to go across a bunch of documents. I'm just going to select all sources. So through some of my DNA research, I've seen a couple names appear in other DNA matches trees that I think could be connected. Can you tell me about Bennett family members? The reason I wanted to show you this one is because it's querying the different sources. So the first one is a biography of Charles Bennett, and it clearly states who the name of his parents are. And then, so I pulled out the Boone County Probate Index, and then we also have 1850 census and my Airtable, so that's what that is. And then this Chancery notice, which I had mentioned before. And it's also pulled out some other things, they called it notable mentions, and referenced some other helpful things like the fact that the name might have been spelled differently. Yes, I wouldn't have spelled it like that personally, but as a researcher, we need to be open to these kind of things and aware that this could happen. So the main thing is that it's pulling multiple sources automatically and showing me where each of the references came from. That means I didn't have to reread or search through all these files and then try to find out the specific mentions. All right, let's pretend I'm looking for somebody called Daniel Gilbert, because that's another name that has come up in the DNA matches. So I'll ask, does Daniel Gilbert appear in here? Happy days. Daniel Gilbert is definitely in these records. And it looks as if over 9 different sources at this point, 10 different sources, which is pretty handy. So yeah, I can just tap on that, which I just did, and it's just zoomed me down into this, where this man appears, Gilbert. If you've ever realized with hindsight that you had the information and it was kind of spread across different files, but you never saw it all together, this fixes that. So through searching, through all of the understanding of the migrations of the people that came into Belvedere in Boone County, I was able to pinpoint on a couple locations that keep coming up again and again. One of them is in Ohio, and I got to show you this document, which is just so exciting to me. So it's a PDF from the history of Toledo and Lucas County, and it has a list of land transfers in this particular township. So this A.B. Crosby fella, he does business with my ancestor in Belvedere in Boone County, and E.H. Crosby is his brother. But then we also have A.B. Crosby again to somebody else who I don't know. Then we have in the same township, Erastus Briggs, who I think could be the brother of my ancestor, but this is where I'm stuck right now. And through Matty, it's the stepfather. I just keep looking at names and I'm like, that sounds familiar. I just think I look at too many names now and they all kind of blend in together, which is why I'm focusing on location. But that's where I'm at right now with this. One of the things you can do is you can have it create content for you. Oh, that's working. I want to also show you an infographic it created. I have mixed feelings about the infographics, but I think they will get better over time, especially if you tell it exactly which content to reference. So, but it's not, I mean, it is pulling out specific people from the records, which I think is is quite lovely. And it does seem like it's fairly accurate. We're just missing New York. A lot of people came from New York. I guess that's there. That's quite cute. Here we have a timeline appearing. So it's chronological. Also, it notices that there's different spellings, which is awesome. It is inferring that he did actually migrate to Ohio. I don't know that for certain, but I do know that his associate was there, and also his suspected family members were there. And so that's fine. This is all from land records. My favorite, in May 1848, a whirlwind week in court. Yeah, it was a busy time for him. 3 civil suits, a divorce, and he got married again. So it points out here where inferred that Lucy Crosby that did business. Yep, so that I kind of already knew. It also says to check out the full artifact and the more detailed citations. So that's what that is. And there's quite a lot of information. I think if I was writing some kind of history, I would probably reference a lot of this. I'm planning to do a follow-up video where I get into building proof statements. I just wanted to give you an overview of what it's like right now to use NotebookLM. And then here's the research summary and source citations. I know this is incomplete. I have a lot more information about his whereabouts post 1860, but it's his early days that I'm struggling with. As you can see, over here is the studio section. There's some things I want to play around with, like the audio overview. I can absolutely see like creating myself a little like audio file I can listen to if I'm cleaning or something, and it can just maybe it can help me spark some additional ideas. At any point that you're working with this chat and you see something that you like that it's generated, what you want to do is click Save to Note. So what that does is it adds it over here on the right, so then you can reference it again. If you start updating your sources and it gets out of date, you can just generate it again and add it back, and then you would just delete the old one. So here you can delete it. You can also export it, and you can convert these sources. So if you wanted to make these searchable, I think the idea is that it would maybe speed things up a little bit, but yeah, I mean, your mileage may vary. And I also want to talk about the Airtable. So there's no way to sync these two directly right now. Well, there might be, but I haven't figured it out. But what I am doing is occasionally I'll just export the Airtable into a Google Sheets, and then I can make that available just like that. So I click on that. It describes what's there, and it would just, I don't know if you noticed, but it just did a sync right now with Google Drive. So in case anything had changed. But yeah, it's essentially a list of all of the names that we had over in Airtable. The reason why I really like working this way is I can keep structured information about individuals over here in Airtable. I'm not cluttering up my family tree database, because right now I don't know how they connect to my family tree, if they do at all. They could just be friends, friends and associates and neighbors. But knowing a lot about these people has been super helpful, and I don't need to have like full source citations for each of these. I have a very quick and dirty source citation, so I know where the information came from. The other super helpful thing has been tracking the places, as I've alluded to, knowing that the places that people came to before they came to Boone County, and also afterwards. If you are interested in having this type of setup for your family history, let me know. You can reach me over on Substack. I'm doing custom consultations right now. I think someday it might be nice to have some templates available, but right now it's still early days. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all either. This definitely gives me some things I could follow up on. I still think you can't give your whole brain over to AI. Look, AI is never going to have all of the context, and they're never going to be able to know what's important. All they can do is point out matching things or any kind of patterns that emerge. Although, I mean, I'm personally pretty good at pattern matching. I have so many more projects in mind for NotebookLM, so it is still early days that I'm using it. I'm super interested to see what we can do with it, because one of my struggles is that I never have enough time, and this is going to be a game changer in terms of changing how much research I can get through. Sorry, I got distracted. There's another name here, another surname I hadn't noticed before, which could be interesting. One of the next things I might do is have a list of my DNA matches trees, and there's a tool I think for that I'm going to try out, which I'll make into a video if that turns out to be helpful. But it's a good way of comparing the trees. Having names from ancestral trees of DNA matches in a way that can be compared with other names here, I think could be really, really helpful. Thanks to AI, I feel like I might actually get through my genealogy to-do list. Maybe. There's always more. And I'm super excited. I will update you if I do get this brick wall knocked down. I feel like it's getting close. I guess my question for you is, if you have brick wall ancestors, then how many sources do you have about them right now? And how do you organize what's in them? If you can keep them all straight. I'd love to know your secrets. Otherwise, I recommend trying this. I just need to know I'm not the only one completely drowning in files, because there's a lot more I could be uploading, but my strategy might change for that. I'm also writing about genealogy research and family stories over on Substack, so I'd love to see you over there. If you want to reach out to me, that's a good place. You can send me a message on Substack, and I'll leave a link in the comment and in the description. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye for now. I'm also tracking individuals' records related to my fan club. I'm adding the individuals from this town that knew my ancestor at the time he lived there in Airtable, and I made a whole separate video about that, which I'll link